to introduce to us now the Group Sustainability and Corporate Affairs Executive at MTN, who steps into this space with the responsibility of leading this giant sustainability and corporate social investment strategy. Ashanti, I'm even scared to say CSI now. And to do that across the operations in Africa and the Middle East, focusing the work of MTN in advancing its commitment to improving lives through digital skills for digital jobs and ensuring that this aligns with national priority areas. Please help me welcome Marina Madale to the stage. Let's give Marina a round of applause. Where she is, there she is.
Thank you very much, and I think a warm MTN yellow to everybody. I think, Ashanti, you definitely left all of us, at least me, I can attest to the fact that you left us with this question in our belly and saying, are we really, taking care and doing the right thing? But also inspiring us that if we have young people like you that not only hold us to account, but want to be part of the solution, then the future is definitely bright. So thank you for that. From an MTN perspective, MTN believes that everybody deserves the benefits of a modern connected life. And today I have the privilege of introducing this panel, talking about a topic that's very close and dear to my heart, and I think Nick from Trilog can allude and vouch for me, hopefully, on this one. And I think we're very fortunate to be speaking about Africa's digital transformation and ideally this digital talent pipeline that's required. So to introduce the section, I'm going to speak not just about what MTN's doing. I actually want to talk about a little bit about the contrast, the reality and the opportunities that lies for the African continent and for South Africa, a beloved country. And I think for me, access, we know, has been an issue because everyone speaks about skills, but they jump the infrastructure, they jump the trainers, they jump the access to connectivity, they jump the access to devices to enable the skilling and so forth. So it's really critical to understand that this needs to be an ecosystem-based approach. And I think it's really important to note that, there's my pointer, thank you, sorry about that. It's important to note that when you look at Africa, the youth are its greatest competitive advantage and also strategic asset, both from education and an export perspective, and I'll touch on that a little bit later. So I think it's really critical to note that to build this pipeline of talent, it really is about creating inclusive and future-ready systems and capabilities. And I think we all in this conference have acknowledged that public-private partnerships and collaborations are really essential, even more so in terms of skills for the future. Now, when you start to speak about the big word that is the buzz of the town, which is artificial intelligence, a lot of people are very scared that artificial intelligence is going to cause people to lose jobs. And I think we need to put the elephant on the table to speak about the fact that jobs will be optimized, some will be made redundant, but there's far more greater opportunities as a result of AI that far outweighs the jobs that will be optimized. And I think there's a famous, I call it famous because I quote it everywhere you go, study by McKinsey that was actually around South Africa's 4IR journey. And it spoke about the number of jobs that would be lost and then the number of jobs that would be created. And that's the graph that you see right there before you. And so if you see the number of jobs that are going to be created are far more than the number of jobs that will be lost. And I think they speak about 1.2 million net jobs by 2030. The other is very important to note that integrating AI across all levels is important. It's not about one part of society, it's all parts of society. And then it's really important to understand that upskilling and reskilling is no longer optional. It's important, and that's the way we're going to bring about inclusivity and connectivity as a continent. The other important point I want to leave you with is really around taking a demand-based lens, and that is absolutely critical, because if you start to understand, you'll actually see that there's a demand for jobs in sub-Saharan Africa far more than we are currently producing, okay? And then it's important to know, okay, what kind of skill sets are we going to need? And you'll see that generative AI is the top one. According to Coursera's recent study, Gen AI skills are up 866% year on year. So the demand is increasing more and more. So if you're still doing digital marketing training, question mark, how relevant is that? In terms of demand skills, what will marketing look like with Gen AI and so forth. And then obviously the other really critical elements are aspects like cybersecurity. You're seeing more and more cybersecurity attacks than ever before. Hackers are using AI and other tools to better bridge systems. So you can imagine that we're going to need more and more cybersecurity professionals to be able to deal with these emerging technologies and the complexity that comes with it. We also know that it's going to become more and more important, and I think this is something that I've not heard come up enough in this conference so far, is the fact that digital literacy should actually be embedded throughout the education levels, from basic education all the way through to higher education. And if you think about it, a lot of people spoke about, reading for comprehension. They've spoken about numeracy, but it's about digital literacy now. If we're not teaching our kids this at an early age and ingraining it into the curriculum of what they are learning in schools, and also to teach them to do it safely, then what is it that are we preparing our children to be future ready? And I tell the story often. I've got a 9 and a 10-year-old. My kids were probably by about 2 years old surfing YouTube. I don't even think I'd fully tapped into the potential of YouTube. They were able to navigate it with ease. They navigate TikTok and so forth. So they're far more advanced. This generation's far more advanced. We need to do the right thing by them, by embedding it into curriculum and preparing them truly for the potential that exists. I am seeing the things flashing, so I'm about to wrap up. So I think I want to leave you with a few thoughts. And that's really around this next generation. And what you'll see is that, the demand for skills is such that the whole world is trying to navigate AI, IoT, blockchain, and so forth. So there's a skills deficit globally. I've spoken about the sub-Saharan African skills deficit. But the challenge you see is, and the opportunity rather, is that Africa can help meet its own needs and also provide global skill sets and become a producer of digital skills and digital talent for the world. And I think it's really important to note that this is now evolving. It's more than just about coding. It's about ethical AI, it's about critical thinking, it's about adaptability, and so forth. And it's the only way that we're going to show that Africa is resilient, Africa is adaptive, and that Africa has solutions to its own problems. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marina. And again, thank you for joining our panel and for giving us a good framing and some of these initial provocations to help us think about how do we build the continent's digital pipeline. As you said, it's without the skills, we're literally going to be left behind and just reduced to observing the digital economy instead of participating in it. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to welcome the other panelists to join Marina on stage. I'm going to welcome Lisema Matsietsi. Lisema, let's give him a big round of applause as he comes up. Oh, I remember I struggled with your surname last time. I'm going to do it a better job now. It's actually Lisema Matsietsi. So I've got that better. He is a senior technical advisor in the GIZ Digital Skills for Jobs and Income project. And what they do is that they support youth who are not in employment, education, or training to transition to employment. Thank you for being here. Let me welcome Lisala Keteng, who is a training manager at the EBL Institute of Business and Technology. As he comes up, let's give him a round of applause. Welcome, Lisala. And last but not least in this conversation, welcome, is Chuma Memela. Chuma is the CEO and co-founder of Gambuu. This is a digital platform which connects users to experts, coaches, and professionals. He's also the founder and managing director of Genius AI, where they help entrepreneurs, SMEs, and individuals to adopt AI in practical ways, which include automating time-consuming admin tasks. So as I take my seat, once again, I'd like to invite us to do a quick poll as a way of warming up for our last and final discussion for the afternoon. And the poll should be popping up on your Interact. There it is, it's up on mine. The question is, what do you think is the single most important enabler for building Africa's digital talent pipeline by 2030? We've got a long list there. Is it about access to affordable, reliable internet and devices, so some of the hardware? Is it about relevant, future-focused curricula and training, building on some of the conversations we heard earlier as well? Is it about public-private partnerships that link training to real jobs, that collaborative aspect is coming through again? Is it about more support for youth-led innovation and entrepreneurship? Is it about an investment in foundational skills such as literacy, numeracy, and some of the soft skills? Or is it about policy? And that is policies that prioritize inclusion, especially for women, for rural youth, and for marginalized communities. Let's see what our audience thinks, Marina. So as you can see, the numbers are running there. What seems to be the two contenders, the two leaders. The first one is access to affordable, reliable internet and devices is coming through at 31%. And at 36% now is investment in foundational skills, getting the literacy, the numeracy, and the soft skills right. I think what's interesting as well is where we're seeing the lowest numbers. I think just now I saw at 1% and I see it's jumped to 3% now, but was the question on policies. Also at 3% is support for youth-led innovation and entrepreneurship. And so we'll keep these results at the back of our minds just to reflect on and to think about. But Marina, let me firstly thank you for that presentation, because I think it gave us a really great high-level overview. But to get into the detail a little bit, what would you describe as the systemic gaps in digital education and employability that MTN is trying to address, especially through your Skills Academy as well as your broader ICT for Skills strategy?
Thank you very much for the question. And I think my team gave me the data from the MTN Skills Academy.
Yes.
As I came in here, and very ironically, the type of courses, so this is the top 3 courses that young people are going to on the Skills Academy. Before I tell you about the Skills Academy, is digital literacy is number 1, code yourself is number 2, and basic information literacy is number 3. So you can see that that matches what young people are actually choosing to do. So the research, the poll today, and the reality that we are seeing is aligned. So I think MTN very clearly saw that there's a huge percentage of unemployment.
Yes.
In some countries, we see 40%. In some other countries in Africa, we see as high as 70 to 80% unemployment across multiple countries. South Africa, very similar. And what we saw is that we believed there's a need to put deliberate ecosystem-based approach in place with a very strong theory of change as well. So we then looked and developed the Skills Academy, which is made up of 4 key parts. The first part is career guidance. Now, many children, especially in rural and remote schools, never have the privilege of ever having a career guidance counselor. So through strategic partners like PACE, we've digitized career guidance, and a child can, as easy as 10 minutes, sit, complete the career guidance survey, find out what subject choices to make, and then what career choices to make, okay? And so that's the first part, informed decision. And we're not encouraging children to leave school, we want them to complete it, okay? That's the one part of it. No, we have to make that very clear, because you will hear how, from a systemic perspective, our academy actually creates an alternative opportunity. The second part was really the upskilling. And in there, we upskill from basic, intermediate, all the way to advanced courses, to the point that we create nano degrees. So young people can complete degrees in a shorter time frame. And if you think about the way technology is going, it's moving so fast that you need to also try and get to completion as fast as you can and continuously train yourself. And so the systemic gap we saw in the current education system is that many children might either drop out in high school, and we hope that they go back, but also there are others that post-high school cannot enter universities because there's a lack of capacity in higher education institutions in South Africa and many other parts in Africa. There's also costs, which a lot of families cannot afford. And so what the academy does is provides an alternative to that. And then the last 2 parts of the academy, because it's really critical that you don't just upskill. And I think a lot of companies are upskilling, and then what? You know? So as MTN, we built the entire ecosystem to say, once a person's upskilled, we know the question they're going to get, which is, do you have experience?
Yes.
And so what we've done is we've built in work readiness, preparing them for interviews, helping them to use the power of technology to build their own CVs, and then enabling them to access internships, graduate programs, and so forth that will help them get the experience. And then the third part, the last part, the fourth part of the academy is really then building, and this is one that we're still building in, is building Africa's largest job portals. Because if you think about looking for jobs, it's very fragmented at the moment. Depending from country to country, you don't have a single place to go. And so we want to create the single place, but one that enables the power of technology, things like AI, to give real-time feedback, to say, young person, you meet the criteria, wait. Or young person, you don't have enough experience, go gain more experience. Or young person, you don't have the training or the qualification, whether it's Python, it's coding, or whatever, go get upskilled. So that's really the academy. It takes an ecosystem-based approach to systemically offer this alternative way of enhancing current school levels, making better choices, going into the right careers, and then ultimately a skills pathway to enable you to have a greater chance of success of truly landing jobs.
Sure. That as you list the different pieces of the architecture of that ecosystem, it's quite compelling. And Chuma, as I'm listening to Marina, I'm wondering, what else would you add to that? So as Marina says, better choices, you have an ability to upskill. I love this idea of nano qualifications, a jobs portal, so there are pathways to opportunity at the end of that. When we bring the GIZ's Digital Skills for Jobs program, what is your approach for what you believe is an effective way of building digital skills? And what would you add, take away, enhance from what Marina has shared?
No, thanks for that, Nozipo. And what Marina has shared is quite wonderful, and I'm just building onto it to say across the world, many organizations are not just standing still, they're doing exactly what Marina and team are doing at MTN. So the first question now becomes, what is digital skills for jobs? And behind that, what is GIZ? So let me just start first by introducing what is GIZ. So in development finance, country to country or multi-countries, as we are approaching the G20 later on this year, there is an opportunity where either multi-countries come together to solve biggest issues. In this case, Germany came with South Africa. They have a long-standing relationship of 30 years, and they shook hands and they said, what can we help with? High youth unemployment rate was on the list. So as we are helping with high youth unemployment rate, they committed some funds to it. And that is what digital skilling for jobs and income is coming in. So as we have listened at the beginning of the conference, I think we were taught about how politics are linked to the economy.
Yes.
For GIZ to operate in South Africa, because it's doing technical cooperation, for it to operate here, we need to operate through the department.
Yeah.
So in this case, we operate through the Department of Digital Technologies, DCDT, as well as DHET and NEMISA and the presidency because of the Presidential Youth Unemployment Initiative. Anything else that you say, youth, there's a department for that. Technology, there's a department for that. And I'm saying this, Nozipo, because I'm looking at our poll. Policy is the lowest. So I'm trying to get it from the policy side of things, and we are here. And once Germany and South Africa had shook hands, and they said, let's find out the policy that's in place that talks about how we can create pipeline for the next future of jobs. This is what we are tasting as Digital Skills for Jobs and Income project. Now, what we are doing, there's a lot of things that we are doing. One of those is working and testing the pipeline from TVETs to jobs, and unfortunately we don't have anybody from TVETs here, but we're testing that pipeline. And I'm going back to TVETs. I know a lot of us are rolling our eyes, but internationally, TVETs are the closest one to the job market. So we are doing best practices and we are trying to test them here. The second one, we are coming over to my gentleman on the left, on my left here, to look at non-traditional training providers.
Yes.
And we are saying, like what MTN is doing, but it's doing it from corporate. We're also looking at their side to say, as they are doing micro credentials or full-time credentials, what is the pipeline to jobs? And the last one that we are doing is we are bringing private sector together with the training providers. And we are testing this thing called demand-led skilling, where the organization says, here's my job description, here's what I'm gonna need a year, 2 years from now. Can you develop exactly what I'm looking for? It's a different mindset shift. And I'm trying to link this with the last panel. I know we were talking about where should education sit, but here we are saying we are testing something else where we're saying it starts with private sector and then skilling and then you come to the private sector. So that's what we are doing on Digital Skills for Jobs and Income.
So the German Development Agency, GIZ, and I think it's such an important point that you're raising because, as you said, we start in the morning with the statement that says if politics is fractured, society and the economy is fractured. And what I'm hearing you say is that at a macro global level, there are partnerships that are geared to help us almost make better, more data-driven, evidence-based investments and decisions around how we solve for the challenge of unemployment. And I think it's really interesting that you keep using the word we're testing for. And that's really encouraging because it kind of shows that we are allocating resources to making sure that we're not just investing in the dark, but we've done the back end work of testing for the viability of a particular hypothesis around what creates jobs and what doesn't. And so building on what Marina has said, and as you bring your voice in, it sounds very compelling. So let me then go to Lisala and say, Lisala, so you've been described by Chuma as one of the alternative service providers that we would think about. When you are sitting at EBL, what are learners walking in the door? with? What is the primary ask that they have as they try to transition from digital training into meaningful employment or entrepreneurship? Do we know what learners want and need, the gap that you are closing for them to take those digital skills into the marketplace?
Thank you, Nozipho. Please allow me first, before I answer your question, to acknowledge Dr. Thabo Pitse, a thought leader who would have wanted to be here. I'm representing him today from what you call the first floor, on the ground. I'm on the, what do you call, front lines of the CSI work that we do. So really, Nozipho, the challenge in the industry, it's not what do you call, it's not potential. Potential from our students is overflowing, and it's not interest. These guys are hungry. They're hungry for knowledge. They're hungry to grow. The first thing that we find is a challenge is that bridge between training and transitioning to employment. They need to be taken from getting a certain qualification to being able, for example, let's say learning how to use Python and getting paid for using it. So one of the challenges that we come across is that these guys have a challenge of a mismatch between the training provider or the training that they've received and what the employer does. So they go into, say, for example, if we're looking at entry level, NQF level 5, somebody will graduate maybe from a university qualification, but that person will not be employed. For example, a lot of HR guys don't want anybody who has just an NQF level 5 at a university level 1. It speaks to what has been said regarding they don't know the practicals, they don't have the experience, they don't necessarily have the skill to perform the work. You know, what you want as an employer is to have that perfect talent pipeline. When you replace somebody, you want somebody to be a perfect fit for the gap that has just been opened. So that's one thing, getting our guys from a point where they're getting training, they have a certificate, to a point where they can qualify and be able to do, to perform a certain skill. That's the first one, you know, that mismatch between this is what the employer needs, but this is what the training provides. So we need training, we offer training that will help them get job ready so that they can be ready to enter the job market and take spaces in that industry. The second challenge there is workspace exposure. I think we've spoken about that extensively. You know, they don't have a practical experience. The first thing that employers want is 2 years experience minimum. And a lot of universities, a lot of training providers do not give hands-on practical experience on how to perform a certain skill. The other one will be limited access to data, limited access to, devices, laptops. You know, you'd be expecting for a student from all the way from KZN, Emakaya, to work remotely, and they are using a laptop that they inherited from their brother who graduated back in 2008, and the laptop is still using Microsoft or Windows 7 or maybe XP. That's, and then you want to maybe install a program like Microsoft Power BI on a platform like that, you're going to get a challenge. And you expect that somebody to be able to assume a job role, especially in a remote working space. They are unequipped. They are being let down by the resources that they have. The other thing, access to data. You know, WhatsApp data is a buzzword among youth. This thing of having sufficient data is a problem. If you want to give students or learners information, it needs to be via WhatsApp because they don't have access to internet. So we need hubs that can, absorb these guys so that they have access to data, access to infrastructure. There's some spaces in South Africa where we still struggle to have a student connected on a Zoom call for an hour, for 30 minutes. You can imagine trying to equip somebody, train them, but they can't even stay online for more than 5 minutes. So that's a challenge that we experience when these guys walk into the space or walk into the program. The other thing is that mentorship. There's no mentorship. Somebody could go and get a skill. For example, they understand what AI is, they know what machine learning is, and so forth, but they don't have a mentor to shape and grow and tell them, this is the direction you should be taking. And that's one thing, initiative that we do in the program. For example, Chuma here is one of the graduates who graduated from our program 2 years ago. We have, in our program, we have what we call champions. These are guys who have graduated from the program, EBL alumni, and what they do is, Chuma is one of those champions at the moment, and they absorb the other guys and sort of show them what it is that you need to do. Like, for example, right now, as somebody who is trying to make a place for yourself in the digital sector, you need to be showcasing. You need a portfolio of evidence to showcase your skills. You need to be writing articles to showcase that you know what you're talking about. So people like Fanin Dlovu, who's from Durban, has been working closely with Chuma here to ensure that they help other guys, equip them. How do I use AI? How can I ensure that AI doesn't take my job? How do I ensure that it doesn't replace me, but I use AI to be more productive in the work that I do, to be a better professional, a better entrepreneur, and be able to execute or maybe offer a solution to whatever problems that I have. So there's quite a number of challenges, mainly the gaps. I think this poll here speaks very well. If I can, in closing, I can speak to the literacy. That there's a huge challenge with digital literacy. You still get students who don't even know how to operate a normal laptop or a normal computer, just switching on a normal computer. So this is, I'm speaking now from the ground floor, where learners are not just statistics. They are, these guys are real human beings with challenges, with obstacles, with doubts. And these challenges often become a barrier. For example, if I can speak to one of the students who graduated from our program a year ago, during the program, they lost their loved one. And now you want to also take care of the psychological need of the student at the same time giving them training. So those are some of the challenges that are there, and our program sort of tries to cater and equip all these guys with all these challenges that they have.
Lisala, you make so many linkages to what has been spoken about. I'm reminded of Marina starting us off by saying the infrastructure matters. And as you talk about, this target group of young people who are unlikely to be on a device, who probably are not connected, who don't have access to data, we go back to the question of what is the infrastructure that is keeping them excluded versus being included. When you talk about young people just wanting training to be able to start working, I go back to Chuma's point to say, is it demand-led? As they come out, what has informed that particular qualification? And how do we go more towards demand-led training instead of supply-led training instead? You talk about exposure and experience and portfolios of evidence, and I come back to Marina saying to us, we have to solve for the fact that they're coming in with no experience, and having to build on that. There's just so much that you've shared, and I think it's been super powerful just to bring the young person in the room, and I think that's what you've done in your response. But Chuma, you're here. And so it would be fantastic to hear a little bit about your journey and your experience and how digital skills training has changed and impacted your life.
Well, Nosi, thank you so much for the question. I don't know how far back you want me to go.
just in 2 minutes.
But let me give you a synopsis of my journey, So I finished school around the year 2014, did 2 years, dropped out, decided to go back to school, finish my undergrad, cum laude, finish my honors, top of my class, and then I get into the job market. And I receive over 300.
Hold on, guys, cum laude. I need one. I mean, hello. We don't just drop it like that. Well done.
I didn't say that to brag, but I just wanted to paint the picture and to show the audience here how dire the situation is in terms of the state of unemployment in the country. So even with all those accolades, I struggled to find a job. And of course, I had registered for my master's, and me being myself, I like to overload myself, and that's where I stumbled across the program. And even there, I performed very well. I came third in the country, first in the province, and did very well. But that's not the point. Through the program, because I had left university not knowing in which industry do I actually want to go, which is the disconnect we are trying to speak about here. And that's where I stumbled across artificial intelligence. And being a person who had thought that this field of AI is something far-fetched, much like most of people who are here, right? And that's where I really started to zone into it. And it's hard for people to say AI without my name, for those who know me, because I evangelize so much about it, and it's what I talk about on LinkedIn. To add on top of that, last week, the Daily Maverick released an article which was penned by, I'm not quite sure, but they were talking about how there's a ChatGPT crisis amongst universities and how there's a lot of cheating going on. And I thought, I argued against this 2 years ago. I'm not going to let it go by. So I penned an opinion piece Saturday night responding to that, and I hope they actually publish it. But I think we are doing a disservice to young people, especially in high school and universities, by not letting them use artificial intelligence. And why am I saying this, right? We need to prepare young people for a world that is coming. And the educational system needs to evolve.
Sure.
And it is the same reason why employers say, we can't employ people who are not job ready. These kids are wet behind the ears. They need more training. And it starts there. You look at the two leading global economies in the world, China and America. They have introduced AI from a primary school level. And we are saying 19-year-olds mustn't use AI. What is going to happen in 5 to 10 years' time in terms of development? How are we going to compete on the global scale? So those are some of the challenges, maybe concerns that I have, and I mean, me being me, I've taken full advantage of artificial intelligence. I use it every day. I haven't written an email in 6 months. I just talk to ChatGPT and it drafts it quickly for me. I quickly edit it. It's done in a minute. I mean, with the kind of English you need in an email, maybe it takes some people 5 to 10, But and that's at a low level of AI, and I'll touch on other things maybe in the second.
Just a quick comment, Chuma, before I move on, because I actually want to go. There's so many questions for your session on the platform, so I want to go to that. Just a quick question. You've given us a sense of the impact of digital skills training in terms of the impact on you, but you're also an entrepreneur.
Yes.
It's helped you to start a business. Talk to us a little bit about that. How did that change almost like your realm of possibility to suddenly be able to build and start a business on the back of AI and to use that as the offering that you're taking to market?
Cool. Thank you so much. Look, I'm not one of those survivalist entrepreneurs who went to it out of desperation, I've been selling stuff out of my book bag since high school, so even at varsity. But it's really opened a new world for me where I'm helping young people. I'm training entrepreneurs. Even on Thursday, I'm training 50 on how to use artificial intelligence. There was a client I was training last week, and I was just showing her ChatGPT, the free version, and she jumped out of her chair. She couldn't believe it. And it goes to show how so many people don't understand how powerful these technologies are. And we're still talking about Gen AI, which Umama mentioned.
Yes.
But there's something new that is coming, which is called agentic AI. And Microsoft has actually predicted that in the future, we are going to manage AI agents and not people. And most people don't know about that world. So I think it's very imperative that we start to teach people about these skills, and it's what I teach. I teach AI literacy to organizations and entrepreneurs, sort of turning them into super employees,
Sure.
And I think the generation of specialization is slowly being phased out. Organizations need generalists. You need multiple skills. It's not enough that you know marketing. It's not enough that you know tech.
Yeah.
We've got tools now such as Replit. We've got tools such as Bolt. We've got no-coder tools such as Bubble.
Yeah.
You come up with a concept, it's done by the end of the day or the end of the week at most if it's very complex. So it's not important that you go spend 3 years at university learning how to code, because all coding is a language and nothing more than that. And with generative AI now, you can speak into existence what you want, and it does the coding for you, and that's where we're moving.
Sounds like a scripture. Speak it into existence. Chuma, thank you so much. So we've got 20 minutes. I wanna bring some questions to you from the audience, because I think this one we were not going to get away from. Question from Desiree. Marina, this one is for you. What is MTN doing to actively reduce the cost of data? We knew this question was coming. There are no surprises there. But Desiree goes on and says, data is no longer a want, it's a need. It's an equality driver. And as it stands, people spend a minimum of 100 Rand on data versus getting a 350 Rand grant. And so I think what's really helpful in the way Desiree has framed the question is just to show how significant data is in the lives of people when you compare it to what 350 means to those who get 350 Rand a month. What is the thinking, if I can just massage the question a little bit. Marina, what is the thinking about how do we make data more accessible, especially for young people, especially for those who need these digital skills that we're talking about?
So let me start at the beginning, because I work in the sector.
Yes.
So we have a sector body called the GSMA, and they on a regular basis look at what are the barriers to digital and financial inclusion.
Yes.
And there's two key indicators that they measure. One is obviously access to mobile devices. And I always describe devices as the keys to the kingdom of the internet world. If you don't have a device, you can't access the online world. And then second is really around usage of the internet. And in MTN, we have a framework called CHASE, which is around the barriers, so coverage, handset, and so forth. Affordability is one of the key factors. What we currently do is that to ensure consistency, especially around different countries, before I come to South Africa, is we take the UN Global Affordability Alliance indicator, which says 1 gig of data should be accessible by household income that has a certain amount of affordability.
Okay.
And so what we do is we track all our countries and say, is the affordability of data sitting below that global average? And I'm pleased to say that of our markets, at least 14, including South Africa, is one of the countries where affordability of data is aligned to the global best practice. Then you need to look at what makes up the cost of data, right? There's aspects like taxes, there's aspects of other regulatory fees, and then obviously ensuring profitability. And year on year, when we start to look at South Africa in particular, we've seen the cost of data coming down. So I think there needs to be an acknowledgement of that, and it's not just something we're seeing for MTN. Other operators also in the country are the same. So I think, can more be done? Absolutely. And I think that's where we've got a very supportive department of DCDT that works very closely with us to understand what the barriers are, to understand, where can taxes be reduced and things like that to enable greater affordability. And I think a recent victory was that a mobile device was previously considered to be a luxury good. So it got a luxury tax.
Okay.
And if you look, an average South African can't afford a smartphone.
Yeah.
So just removing that taxes is going to go a long way. So I think there's definitely more to be done, and it definitely is an enabler.
So an ongoing conversation, we'll test it, of course, with Vodacom as well tomorrow. We're not going to give up on the cost of data conversation. Before I let you go, Marina, I wanted to bring this question, and then I'll work my way down. Sonia says, why would MTN build their own academy when there are numerous organizations that are equipped and experienced at providing all the same services? Is this not counterproductive? How do you respond to Sonia?
So I think first thing to note is that when we built it, we saw a gap in the market. So I think that's the first thing to note. And I think earlier we spoke about the systemic value chain and where we are coming in. And then secondly is that we did not decide to do this alone. If you can imagine, our core strength and capability is connectivity, it's not training. And so what we then did is we partnered with others. So as an example, our current based partner in the ecosystem is Coursera, and we're looking to partner with others. We're in conversations with Microsoft and many others. The aim is to design an ecosystem of partners. So in no way is this taking existing approaches not into consideration. It's actually how we're bringing it all together and creating one single place, because everything is sitting currently there, but very fragmented and not integrated.
Sure. Thank you thank you very much for that, for highlighting the ecosystem of partners, because oftentimes when there is a big corporate brand, the strength of the brand often means that we don't see the other players, and it's important in spaces like these that we are highlighting. All the data questions The networking event this afternoon. We will find you, Marina, and we'll have the conversation. I'm getting so many data questions. One of them being, please ask Marina why my data is more expensive in KZN versus when I'm in Joburg. We will address that later, but I think it's an important, as much as it's a light-hearted moment, it shines the spotlight on an important lever that everyone is saying this potentially is a barrier. How do we box smartly around it? And I'm just glad that we've had the openness to engage with it so far. So, Lisema, let me come back to this, and I want to say macro-governmental, intergovernmental partnership that we're seeing, because GIZ essentially is an extension of the German government, and it is then part of the relationship between Germany and South Africa. What are we learning about how such programs that are targeted at skilling young people, in particular digital skills in this context, what makes them work at an intergovernmental level? So if we wanted to replicate this between maybe South Africa and the AFDB, the French Development Agency as an example, what would we need to repeat to make sure that it works?
That's quite important, because we have a task now of doing international benchmarking, especially around skills to jobs, demand-led skilling. And we are going around and helping the department to actually learn from 5, South Africa being the 6th country, to say countries that look exactly like South Africa, how do they go, or actually, like earlier on, we were speaking about the entrepreneurship spirit. How do they use digital skills to go all the way to entrepreneurship? That's where Chuma is sitting in. And we are doing that, we're just finalizing the selection of the countries. But when we get there, digital skills, the pathway from being a junior, I'm also from banking, thinking about being a cleaner to being a bank teller all the way to a CEO, and we call that a career pathway. So in a career pathways, if we're looking at which ones are the toppest one, we picked 5 based on our desktop study, which is cybersecurity, cloud computing, data analysis, software development, as well as the new one that is being championed, content development, which is where I know we're thinking about influencers, but that's where also animation is also falling into. Films and stuff are all falling into that. And we're saying, based on these 5 career pathways, what does it look like to move from, like I said, we're trying to do from companies saying we want these people and training those people into earning. And we're also looking into squishing the time. So we're also not saying 3 years. We're saying, can you do it in 3 months? Can you do it in 6 months? Can you get people into jobs now? I heard about work readiness while we are testing all of this. And my role is to actually not negate what MTN and everybody in the foundations are doing. I was looking at the handbook. I was so happy. There's a lot of companies that are actually going under tackling SDG number 4, quality education. My job is to actually go around, not just education, but go one little level lower, look at those that are doing digital skills, and I'm saying, what have you discovered? What can we learn from you so that we can pass it over to both the Department of Higher Education and the Department of Digital Communication? Because as much as other people has come to us and they're frustrated, they're like, we got this solution, we want to take it for policy. And we're like, but we already got a working relationship. Why don't you come and I listen to you, and then afterwards, then we can take it forward. Because in our steering committee, there's still an action item. They're looking at me to say, we want to hear from the private sector. So I'm ready to hear what you are doing and collecting it together. And I'm also quite happy with what MTN has done. They've taken a target of 900 NEET youth. 700 graduated, almost 750. There's also another issue that also is spoken about here, high dropout rates. We are also targeting those. We want to learn, how do you get the dropout rates? How do you look at that? Gender strategy. My wife always say, why you talk gender and you are a man? But that's one other thing that we actually put down to say, we want to do gender strategy. What he's spoken about, not just bereavement, but also, stuff happen. When you go on maternity leave, do you get kicked out of the program? Those are the things that we also want to learn. We have a huge gender strategy that's coming from, because GIZ is operating in over 170 countries. We are pulling from everywhere. And if you want to hear from some other country, I will connect with a colleague from that side and we can talk and see what can we do. Another last one is disability. When we started DS4J one, we started in the height of COVID. So now we are 5 years and every project goes for 3 years. The first iteration, we were doing demand-led, no, we're not doing demand-led skilling, we were doing work readiness.
Sure.
Making sure that you are skilled for jobs. And then now we realized that we needed a new strategy of demand-led learning. But the nice key takeaway from the first thing in the height of COVID, through the connectivity and all of those issues that were brought in, was the need to have an organization that actually captures the ecosystem for all the digital demands of organization, and connect them with not just the non-traditional training providers,
sure,
but also with higher education. And I'm happy that through Harambee, the Collective X has been born. And they've been doing a lot of road shows to say, I heard there was, in the last panel, they were like, how do you get people? Guess what? The Collective X has got a solution to help you get young people, not just young people who are not digitally skilled, but young people who are digitally skilled into your job. All they need is a job description and a few things that you can go and find out. Yes, the Youth Unemployment Services has also got the same thing,
sure,
especially for large organizations who are trading somehow and you have a headcount cap. You cannot grow your headcount.
Yeah.
Because I meet with a lot of people, they're like, we would love to help you, but we cannot grow your headcount. They can donate to YES, and YES can actually get the people, train them through the non-traditional providers or through the traditional providers, and then we are looking for SMMEs to place these people. So I'm busy also trying to do visual exchanges where I tell people, it is possible. You can get fully funded people. All I need from you is I will connect you. We need a job description. That's where you start.
Yes.
Don't go on PNet, LinkedIn, and copy a job description. If the person is going to be fixing a Xerox printer, say that Xerox printer so that we can skill a person in a day about a Xerox printer.
Sure. So the beauty of what I'm hearing you say, Chuma, there's two things. One is that there's a concerted effort to actually really pull that ecosystem together. But I'm also hearing that there's an effort to capture and document the lessons along the way. And that's important because when we get to intergovernmental relations, there's no time better than this moment than to learn about what happens when government relations then fracture. And we must then have already absorbed and captured, archived the lessons so that we can use them for ourselves. And it's really encouraging to hear you say that. The other thing you've dispelled is this constant feedback that we don't know where to find them. And what I'm hearing you say is there is a way of finding the young people, and increasingly there are players who are providing that. As we get to the tail end of this conversation, Lisale, let me ask you this question. We've been talking a lot about this idea of upskilling quickly and doing nano qualifications and making sure that young people can learn quickly. How do you, as a training provider, what do you do practically to make sure that the curricula, especially in a very dynamic space like AI, and other technological sort of learning products that you have, that the curricula is up to date, that you are keeping up to pace where everything is. What does that practically mean? Because we keep asking the traditional institutions to do it, and it sounds like it might be something you've already figured out.
Well, Nosipo, this has a sort of a dual approach. The first one would be accreditation. It needs to be according to local standards. Number one, we're looking at getting accredited with SACA, getting accredited with MICT, CTAC, QCTO. Right now, there's a lot of new qualifications coming in. In order for somebody to secure a job, they need some level of accreditation. So it needs to meet local standards.
Yeah.
But local standards alone are not enough to compete at a global scale. So this means we need to sort of incorporate global standards and global qualifications as well. You're looking at your CompTIA, your Microsoft. For example, let me give you a practical example. One of the guys that that was doing the program with us a few years ago was studying at DUT. Then after that was doing a program with us. What he was able to do through Microsoft certifications, because one of our programs is we push these guys to get industry certifications. You can get somebody to go study a bachelor degree, study for 3 years at university. When you employ that person, he still needs to go and get an industry certification. Then once they have an industry certification, then you can put that person in front of your clients or your customers with confidence that they can perform the job that you've employed them to do. So you need to sort of include that in the learning curriculum. For example, as I was saying about one of our students that we're doing, so he was doing a Microsoft certification. After getting a Microsoft certification, right now he's living in Durban, but he's working for Microsoft as a Microsoft Cloud Advocate. He's earning in euros while living and staying in Durban. So that's the nature of, that's the type of person that we're trying to train. We're trying to, another person to bring you in, one of the students who graduated right now a few months ago, part of the 2024 cohort. This lady, Palisa Chabalala, was a teacher who was struggling to get jobs. She had qualified, she had a bit of experience here and there, but she couldn't get a sustainable job. After doing the data analytics program with us, she secured herself a job with Curo. She got 3 offers within 3 months. First, she started working here in Joburg, then I got another offer in Hermanas. As I'm speaking to you, she's preparing to move to Mpumalanga to start her job as a robotics and coding teacher. In that. So that's one. Another thing that's important is incorporate industry experts, people in the forefront who are working with AI on a day-to-day basis. You know, people like Chuma who can tell you how to transition with AI, how to use AI, how to position yourself. Well, Chuma here, I think he's very humble. One of the students who've graduated, he says he was 3rd in the country. The lady who was number 1 in the country, Chuma, is Chuma's mentee actually. Because what Chuma went and did is
Wait. So Chuma, wait, I want to get the math right. So Chuma came 3rd, and the person who came 1st is Chuma's mentee.
Yes. Let me give you context. So what happened, you know, this speaks to what Lisema was saying about collaboration. This is no longer the era of, and Marina as well was speaking to collaboration as she was speaking about the MTN Skills Academy. And I want to close off with the MTN Skills Academy and show you how it comes in to all of this. So what Chuma went and did is after he has improved and gotten his skills as AI and started teaching other people, he went and coached other guys who graduated along with him. As I'm speaking to you now, the lady that I'm talking about is just a few weeks ago was in Swaziland giving a course on AI. She was flown to Swaziland. The person is not even 30 years old, but she was there giving a class, giving a master class in Swaziland. On a weekly basis, every now and then she's giving sessions as well online. And Chuma is the person who mentored her. Chuma also had a mentor. So this is what we're trying to do, help young people collaborate with each other. I mean, Africa is big enough for all of us. Speaking to the MTN Skills Academy as a closing point.
I've got 4 seconds. I can't have a closing point. But can we, in acknowledging what Lesala said, just give Chuma a round of applause. Right? Because this is the Chuma show. So Lisala, thank you for that, because I think what you're showing us is the exponential power when you put skills in the hands of young people with passion, with drive, with ambition. And the fact that Chuma's right here is such a powerful example that you've given us. I've got this thing flashing, but I want to give you one 20-second opportunity, Chuma. Just like Mulweli, if you could give advice, there are people in this room who are tasked with the responsibility, the budget, the authority to make sure that we get digital skills in the hands of young people. If there's one thing that you'd want for them to get right, what would that be?
Well, I think we have a social responsibility, and I'm not talking about CSI, CSI, right? But we need to invest in our people, and more specifically, artificial intelligence. And why am I saying this? We are not going to compete. I mean, already now we're in the back foot. So if I were to say, we need to be intentional about upskilling, and we need to choose the right skills. So it can't be that we are still teaching people computer literacy. You understand? Yeah. Because very soon agentic AI is going to be able to do that. You'll speak to a computer to say, do A, B, and C. But we need to be very intentional about the skills that we teach. But I think more secondly, teach young people how to network. And that's one of my superpowers. I'm not scared to send a DM to someone that I have no business speaking to. And that's how I got my mentor through EBL. I was in a lecture. He was delivering the lecture on Microsoft Power Apps. And he had brought one of his mentees, which is Memela, the one you were speaking about, working in Durban. And I sent him a DM. And till this day, we meet weekly.
Sure.
And that has really propelled me forward. And the only reason why I do it for other people is because I'm paying it forward. I'm a beneficiary of opportunities, and I have to pay that forward.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. So I have to close it, but I just want to repeat that note. I am a beneficiary of opportunity. I have to pay it forward. That's really powerful. And imagine if that was the spirit that we all carried in everything that we did, and we were able to infuse it in every space that we step into. Can I ask you to give my panelists a massive, massive round of applause? Thank you so much.